Oh my goodness. Here's a trade. All right. There's the urgency. All right. So the trade is as wow. Whoa, that's a lot to give up. So the Lakers, according to Shams Charania, are trading Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, who has been out for personal reasons, and a 2031 unprotected first round pick and a 2030 pick swap to the Charlotte Hornets for center Mark Williams. Wow. All right. Well, a lot to process here. Let me it would be funny if I was just like, after saying all of the urgency stuff, it's like, too much. Like it would be funny. It was like, whoa. Let me take a quick second here and collect my thoughts and come back to you guys. I think I really like this one. That's a lot of draft capital to give up in this case. But look, I don't think Dalton was going to play much in the postseason this year. I also don't think that. Yeah, let me collect my thoughts. Let me see if I can find something to play for you guys while I collect my thoughts. Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On Lakers podcast.
Paul George really hit the side of the backboard.
It was wide open. I can't even make sense.
Lou Williams, he said they just came together this year, as if that was an excuse, like the other team in the conference finals didn't do that.
Well, what happened was
It doesn't even matter.
You know, we didn't have time to get it together. You know, like we just.
Did he say that with like lemon pepper wings in his mouth? Is that what happened there?
You're licking it off his
Like,
fingers.
oh man, there were some absences that cost us some
I
time.
just can't quite figure
Picking
out
it out of his teeth.
why we don't have any chemistry.
It's like, Lou, in your mic'd up segment, you said 1, 2, 3 Magic City leaving the last huddle.
All right, we're gonna keep this thing going. Let's take a quick second and to be clear.
They didn't even make the Western Conference. After all that.
All right, so the plan here, I just texted Raj. He and I are going to talk about this one. My immediate take is, this is why I always say, hey, this is why I always say Lakers moves tend to come out of nowhere, right? Out of left field. Did hear that the Lakers liked Mark Williams. Didn't hear that they liked him to the extent of trading Dalton Knecht, a first and a swap for him. This now means that they cannot trade a first rounder next year unless they come by a first rounder by some means next year. Here's the thing. I don't think you can overpay in this situation. Actually, Andrew Friedman had a great quote after or during this last Dodgers offseason where he was like, if you are overly logical about every move that you make, you wind up not making any moves. And I think in this case, the Lakers basically saw at least the archetype of player that they like and wanted to go out and get that kind of a player. Now, as far as, the specific player that they got, Mark Williams he played 43 minutes his rookie season, then played 43 games his rookie season, 19 games in 23-24, and then so far this season he has played in 22 games so far. Now he is producing like crazy this year. 16 points per game, just under 10 rebounds a game. He's averaging more than a block a game, just under a steal a game. He is shooting 59, just about 60% from the field this year, which is down from years past. Doesn't shoot threes, but he's huge. He's a huge person. He is 7'2". This is part of why he's struggled to kind of stay healthy. He's 7 foot. Well, the Basketball Reference has him listed at 7 foot. I've seen him listed as high as 7'2". That might be with or without shoes. 240 pounds. He's athletic. He gets up in the air. He is very much one of those set a pick and roll like your life depends on it to the basket kind of bigs. I'm going to be honest. I hadn't heard that this was in the works. And as Rob said, this wasn't the kind of trade that they were getting ready to make, but this is all in. I would just have hoped that they would have gone this kind of all in on a player who doesn't have that kind of injury concern. Now, look, they like Robert Williams as well. They like that Mark Williams is cheap, right? He is on, I believe, still his rookie deal. That's why you're able to get him for just Dalton Knecht. The Lakers didn't want to mess with, I was told earlier today, and I wrote about this, they didn't want to mess with the rotation that they had. And I think Dalton was on the fringes of that rotation. And they basically turned a fringe rotation player into their starting center. Now you're going into every game. Your starting five is Luka, Austin, DFS, LeBron, and Mark Williams. Or if you want to go Rui, you can go Rui in DFS's spot. I would go DFS personally, just to help with the defense there, and then Rui can really kind of rip apart opposing benches. But like he's been good this year when he's been available. Like the problem is they've played more than 40 games and he's only been available for 22 of them. Injuries have been a real concern. His per 36 numbers are kind of sort of off the charts. 23 points per 36, 14 rebounds per 36, a few assists per 36, a full steal, and just under 2 blocks this year per 36. Offensive rating so far for the Charlotte Hornets, he's a 135 offensive rating and a 109 defensive rating. That's for a terrible Charlotte Hornets team. So, that's pretty impressive that he's able to lift a really bad Charlotte Hornets team up that way. I'm going to do more studying in terms of like the actual player and all of that stuff. I think this is a good way to put it. Omar's Hall, I think it's a good deal, a little bit of an overpay, but fuck it. They have a chance at winning a championship. That the whole argument that I was making in the previous segment was if you have this kind of an opportunity, you go for it. I'm going to welcome Raj onto the stage here. Raj, my initial take
Yeah,
is slight overpay, but if not slight, like an outright overpay.
sure.
But I also kind of see why they would do it, and it's for a lot of the same reasons that I have argued for. So, what do you think about Mark Williams being traded for bringing in Mark Williams for Dalton Knecht, the 2031 first, future swap as well, and I believe a second rounder.
My first initial reaction, Anthony, was take out Anthony Davis, take out Max Christie. This is more stuff than we just gave Dallas for Luka Doncic. I mean, we just
You can't take out.
I know you can't take out, but I'm just talking about just just a draft compensation and like young player. It hurts to let go of Dalton Knecht, who just had a really really good game. But this is going for it, right? And I said on the show yesterday, whenever it was, smell the roses a little bit. And I guess we were done smelling roses because here's the center that we've been asking for, Mark Williams, I think. And I said it on the show yesterday. I thought this was the tier of player they would go get. Now, this is a little bit of a hefty price. You would think this would be a Kessler level type price, that type of guy. And obviously Kessler
wasn't available. Can I just tell, like,
No,
I've been
for
telling
sure.
people, like,
I'm just
people are like,
I'm
man,
just-
could you have gotten that for Kessler? He's like, no, you couldn't
No,
have.
you couldn't.
Especially
have.
after they went behind Danny Ainge's back and he
Right.
wound up helping them get Luka. Like that those conversations weren't getting very far before that.
Sure.
And then after that, he was like, no.
right. But I think that's been the hot name, right? And I think that's the name that most Laker fans were kind of hoping for. Mark Williams is a little bit more an underrated type player, but I think he fits the profile exactly of what Pelinka said at his press conference. I think the big man we've been kind of looking for, a guy with more size. He also fits, I think, kind of the archetype that fits really well with Luka Doncic, and any big man really fits with Luka. You're going to see Jackson Hayes take a boost, but I think Mark Williams is the exact type of guy you go get. I think he was a very high, maybe not lottery pick, but I think he was high pick if I remember correctly. With the Charlotte,
go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah, with Charlotte. Just again a lob threat, big body that you can throw in, and a guy who's better than Jackson Hayes. We'll see if they go 15th pick. Yeah, so right there in the mid first round. A talented guy. I think Charlotte just got another big that they're investing in, so it kind of make Mark Williams expendable. But yeah, I think this is the exact type of tier guy that they wanted to go for. Again, have to invest. It hurts to lose, Dalton and a first rounder. So I guess if you're giving up those type of assets, you don't want to say asset, but assets, Anthony, that kind of tells you this is your center going forward, right? I mean, if you're giving up an unprotected first round pick, this is the center you're moving forward with for a long time. This is your starting center, at least going
stay healthy. Knock on wood.
Sure, all those put to the side, like that guy's probably your starting center going into next season as well, and the guy you're kind of not building around, but kind of building with him in mind. So the Lakers got their center, it looks like, and again, it hurts to me to have to give up the first rounder you got this year with Dalton, but that was the asking price. And they obviously weren't comfortable going with the higher salary guys, and this kind of keeps your rotation in place.
So the Lakers next year won't be able to move any draft capital. I guess they'll technically get a 2032 second rounder that they can move.
Right.
With the start of a new NBA calendar year. They can move pick swaps from here on out. So one thing to kind of keep in mind is Kleba and what they can maybe move him for.
Expiring, yeah.
Yeah, like Kleba's contract and a pick swap, see what they're able to do with him. I do think now that your centers are Jackson Hayes and Mark Williams, you probably got to open a roster spot to convert Koloko as well. Because I don't think Christian Wood is going to play this year.
Sure.
And Kleba, I also don't believe it's either going to play for the Lakers ever, but definitely not this year. The one thing I like about Mark Williams, he's big, he's physical, like he will get in the mud and wrestle a little bit.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Lakers really haven't had that in a center
In a while.
since
Yeah.
Dwight, right? Like
Hmm.
I can't think of any. Trey Jemison kind of does, but he's like a two-way center, so
Sure.
I'm not really counting him. Mark will really go after him. So like get after it physically. So kind of like that. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
So he, could potentially be the center that plays with Luka for the duration of his time in LA. Also really importantly here, the Lakers, like I literally just in the segment prior, I think that segment aged rather well. Was like I was concerned that they maybe didn't learn lessons after the AD and LeBron era,
Okay.
and might not have the urgency necessary in like the Luka era because he is so young. Rob talked a lot about like building for the future, all of that stuff, which this move still kind of does, because
Absolutely.
he's so young. But wait, people saying that they get a roster spot. I don't think they get a roster spot out of that, right? Dalton. Oh no, they do. They moved Cam.
Oh, right. So they do open
Yeah.
up a roster spot. Yeah.
They
I
open
forgot
up
Cam's
one
in
roster
this.
spot. I think they want to, from what I've heard, they want to open up two. They want to convert Koloko eventually, and I think they want to be a factor in the buyout market. Good note there from I'm not seeing it. Sorry, yeah, MY. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, like the whole I'm not kidding, Raj. The whole last segment was like, man, I really hope that the Lakers learn from like not quite maximizing the Anthony Davis and LeBron James era and really try to maximize what is left of the LeBron James era now that he's also playing alongside Luka and really kind of go for it, right? They also have to convince Luka to stick around, show him that they are willing to build with him on whatever timeline he prefers. Look, Luka cannot go to them. Now, maybe this doesn't work out. Mark Williams doesn't stay healthy, whatever. But the one thing that Luka won't be able to go to the Lakers and say is like, yeah, you guys weren't willing to push chips into the middle of the table while I was here. They very much did that, with this trade. And I'm really happy to see that. I swear to God, maybe I should download this episode really quick, replay that segment and see what people think, because it was basically like a giant argument for the trade that they actually just made.
Right. Yeah. And also South Bay just signed a center today, which I think kind of, goes to your point. They're thinking they're going to lose, a center maybe in Koloko, going forward. I'm interested to see if this was Mark Williams, I guess, cost around the league. You really don't know. But I think it's interesting that he went for, a full first and a whole pick swap. I think also what this, to me, tells me, Anthony, like you mentioned, and I think I mentioned it as well, Jackson Hayes being your backup center. I think that's true. I also think we're going to see a lot of small ball. Like I think we're going to see a team that's flying around. Jackson Hayes is like the nominal backup center, but I think they're more than comfortable going with, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui, DFS lineups. I saw a funny comment. I think Carlo was asking, is he better than Lively? I was going to quickly, say no, but I'm very interested. Like, I think Luka Doncic and players of his ilk and his greatness, they boost, their partners, like in terms of pick and roll, in terms of screen game, they boost those partners to a level where I'm very interested to see. Again, Derek Lively's a great player, but I'm interested to see what he looks like without Luka. And I'd be very interested to see what Mark Williams, who is playing on a Charlotte team, and in my opinion, Anthony, one of the worst run teams in the league. I have no idea what they're doing. LaMelo Ball obviously is a brilliant talent, but their system really, they don't really have one. They've kind of churned through coaches, not to be mean, but a very, not a good organization to be a part of. Really interested to see you bring that level of talent, because he's having an awesome year. He's averaging like 16 and 12. I think a block and a few assists. Again, you temper those numbers because of it's in Charlotte, but interested to see what he looks like with LeBron and with Luka, and like finally a center that I think the team believes in, right? I've said for a long time, I don't think they respect this position. They were never going to go get a guy that makes 20 plus million at the position. I never really saw that in terms of the way that they were speaking that Rob Pelinka has been talking about. But no, this is what everyone asked for. The Lakers went out and got, I thought, the center that they would, like, that's kind of in that tier, and they paid a hefty price for it. So Mark Williams has to work out. Like, they didn't give up nothing. They didn't just give up a second rounder. Dalton Knecht was a first from this year, and they gave up a future unprotected and a pick swap. It's a good
Dalton
amount.
was
They must
also
believe in him.
kudos also to Rob, because one of the knocks that I've had on him is that like he doesn't like to trade his wins. Dalton was his only win from the last offseason, right? Because they didn't do anything else. And he turned around, and with Dalton, I don't think Dalton figured into the rotation, especially in a playoff series. And you
I would have
turned him
loved to see
into
it with Luca, though.
I
Just
I think eventually, yeah. It really made me nervous that he went like a month and a half between making threes. Like, and that was the one thing he was supposed to be great at, you know.
wall was high, Anthony. It was a high rookie wall. It was a little higher than
It
it.
was a really thick wall. It was a Mark Williams sized wall.
Yes.
The one thing I'll
yes.
say about Mark Williams, I said this a second ago, and I want to run this by you and let you kind of talk me down here, because the more I talk about it, the better, the higher I am on the move.
Okay.
Throughout his career, per 100 possessions, his rookie year, offensive rating 125, defensive rating 110. His second year, offensive rating 138, defensive rating 116. This year, offensive rating 135, defensive rating 109. This is in Charlotte. Is a shitty organization, like one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NBA. He is consistently on some of the worst rosters in the NBA, and he's having a positive impact consistently. Now, the pushback there is the 125 and 110 from his rookie year. That was over the course of 43 games, and only 828 total minutes. The second year, that 138 offensive rating and defensive rating of 116, that was over 19 games. And then so far this year, that 135 offensive rating and 109 defensive rating, he has played in about half of Charlotte's games to this point. So, like, again, like, availability makes me really, really nervous, but I can kind of see what the Lakers were going for. And look, I wrote this earlier today. The Lakers didn't want to mess with their rotation, and I don't think they really figured Dalton a big part of that rotation. I think their rotation right now is obviously Luka, LeBron, Austin, Rui, DFS, and I'm before this trade, Rui, DFS, Vando, and Jackson and Gabe. That's 8 guys.
Right.
Dalton would have been like your 9th guy there. Now all of a sudden you push Jackson to your 9th guy, and Mark Williams becomes your starting center, and in a more important role because of all the wings that the Lakers have at their disposal. By the way, I don't think they're done. Like, I still think they have Kleba's contract to potentially move. They have quite a bit of room between them and the second apron, which they want to stay under, but they can sign somebody on the buyout market now that they have an open roster spot. They also can offer guys who get bought out more money because they didn't use their exception last summer. So like they're well positioned after this, but yeah, I think that this is Rob going for it. This is Rob doing all of the stuff that like drove me crazy over the last few years. Like, he actually sees, I have a top 3 player in the NBA. And my second best player is LeBron James, who in any given playoff series or any given playoff game can elevate himself to a top 5 player in the NBA. Let's go freaking get it. And you know what, man, I respect it. I was the person who was calling the Lakers cowards earlier this year in a tweet that I fired off. I said earlier this year that I don't really respect the way that the Lakers are being run. This is the kind of move where it's like, you know what? Here's the chips, man. We're fucking going for it, and I respect it.
100%. And again, I think Mark Williams kind of fit, and not many centers fit this, right? I think we were talking the whole season, honestly, and you would mention Jonas, and I would scoff at his name, and kind of glad I don't know if you got to saw the Sacramento Kings debut of their new team tonight. They lost by around 30, I think, to the Orlando Magic. Zach LaVine looks back into a very sad position. But like you mentioned, some of the names, Miles Turner was another name. I think he just made too much. But Mark Williams is 23 years old. And I'd love to know if like how much the scouting department was on this, because this is a guy it feels like they zeroed in on. Like they gave up a lot for that. Like this is not just some center they thought, for this season and we'll see how this works. No, they're investing in Mark Williams. I mean, two first plus another one in the future. I'll be honest, I wasn't, watching Charlotte games that closely, so I'm just got a lot to do today. So I'm going to go and dive into a ton of Mark Williams film. But no, I've liked his game. I like that he's, a lob threat, and like they have LeBron and Luka on their team, and you wondered the kind of position they would take with that. Are we taking it slow? We have Luka Doncic. We can kind of play it out by the decade, and they didn't. It took 2 years for them to. When was the last time, Anthony, before Luka, they gave up an unprotected first? It's been a while, right? I think the last one for in the Rush trade, they gave up a protected one to Utah, top 4. So I mean that was probably as close to unprotected. But yeah, this is a fully unprotected first going out to Charlotte for a center that they believe in, that can be a future of their team. That they probably see in that. I'd be interested to see how much. Obviously, I don't know if they would ever let this out, but how much they see him in that Walker Kessler type of like tier, if they would tier those type of players, where they would kind of put him at. But no, Mark Williams, I think, is the exact kind of fit, lob threat, big dude. Hopefully, I think his defensive numbers I got to kind of look into. Averages, I think, around a block a game, so I'll see how that kind of fares. But he's better than Jackson Hayes, and it gives them a starting center going into Luka's debut on Saturday, which is nuts. They may debut together. Who knows? But yeah, this is Rob doing what you asked for, Anthony, and doing what the fan base asked for. Let go of that first round pick, and I think they could have been well and within their rights. And I know I probably share this belief solely on this pod, but I think they would have been in their rights to be like, well, let's hold on to this first rounder. We'll have more expirings this summer to kind of bolster the roster. They didn't do that. They said we're going for it this season, and here we go.
Yeah, I don't really have too many notes beyond what we've talked about already.
Yeah.
The
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? I'm maybe I feel this way a little bit. I'm surprised they threw Dalton in this. Like Dalton and an unprotected first. I'm surprised. Like this isn't. Sorry to my guy JHS, but this is not including like JHS in a deal. Dalton has shown that he's like has maybe not, I don't know how like all-star
one NBA skill.
That's a very important NBA skill.
Maybe two.
But Dalton is a good cutter. He has athletic, he profiles as a like pretty good athlete as well. Obviously, the defensive stuff are concerning. He's an older player, but that was a guy who was contributing on a team that is 10 games over 500 as a rookie. Like that's not nothing. I'm surprised they threw Dalton in this deal. You're not for Mark Williams, and while including another first rounder in that, I'm pretty surprised that they went all in with that for Mark Williams.
Yeah, like again, I think people are thinking about things through the prism of like, Walker Kessler and what could have been then when it really couldn't have been.
Like, that was never in.
Yeah, it wasn't. He wasn't available to the Lakers.
Right.
Now, yeah, you're right to point out, that there's a world in which the Lakers told the Mavericks, no, we can't include Dalton Knecht for Luka Doncic, but then turned around and traded him for Mark Williams. But also, like, that might be why, right? That might be why they included Max in that deal beyond what the Mavericks were looking for. They could have been like, no, I think on the open market, Dalton has a little bit more value, and we'll probably be looking for trades beyond Luka to compete this year. And they made that decision. So, yeah, I see this. Look at this production on the fly. But yeah, I think it's It's the right idea of a move. It's definitely an overpay. But if it pays off, if Mark Williams is actually like, Dan Wonke tweeted out earlier that like the Lakers believe that his back issues are behind him. Mark Williams' back issues are behind him. Hard for me to really believe that because he's only played in half of the games so far this year. But like, if that is how this plays out, and the Lakers did just get themselves a starting center, I don't give a shit about the 2031 pick because
Sure.
if they just got their starting center and you have Luka and you have Austin and you have like a relatively young team around Luka right now, 2031, the Lakers are going to be good. So like
Sure.
the 2031 pick, I don't care. You're trading like a mid-20s pick to get a number 15 pick. A second round pick, even, I don't necessarily care. And then even a pick swap doesn't matter because the Charlotte Hornets always suck. You're probably
Right.
not going to swap
It's a pretty
a
good
pick
bet.
with the Charlotte Hornets. So like, I don't really care about all of that stuff. And I think that's part of why they probably threw the pick swap in there. They, like,
Sure.
Charlotte's like, Rob, we're gonna need you to include a pick swap in here. Hold on one second. They think they'll be better than us. Idiots. Yeah, sure, fuckers, whatever. Like I draft capital wise, I can talk my way into the amount of draft capital that they gave up. The only concern here that I have potentially, and my face is red. Like, can you guys see how face my red is? I like this is what happens when my brain goes into overload. The only concern here is that like they gambled when they didn't necessarily have to. You know what I mean? They made the right decision trading what they did and all that stuff. Even giving up Dalton, that doesn't hurt me all that much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a gamble. And yes, yeah. Even there, my red is very face. But like the one concern, not complaint, not criticism, but concern, is that this is very much a gamble. And I don't know if they're necessarily in a place to gamble because they don't have any other money.
Sure. And I'm sure stories will come out. The way I'm reading this now, and I could be completely wrong, Anthony, but the way I'm reading this is Mark Williams is a guy they've targeted, right? I think when you listen to Rob yesterday, he kind of he described the center he was looking for. And we kind of joke like he described Anthony Davis, right? We're like us. He's like young, big center, protects the rim, lob threat. But no, this is kind of the archetype of guy that he was looking at. And I never saw the Jonas Valanciunas, names as guys that he would go after. It just did not fit the ethos of the team. It just never looked like what they would go after. They wanted a young guy, it looks like, in this position, and they got it. We'll see what Mark Williams is. Again, I'm going to dive into all the film tonight in the next few hours or next few days that come out. And I'm sure stories will come out as well and look at, Charlotte games and stuff like that. But no, this is exciting. Like, the Lakers went for it. There was a chance Jackson Hayes was starting on Thursday night. Oh, he's still going to start Thursday night. But I mean, there was a chance Jackson Hayes was like your starting center. And I know most people wouldn't have. I would have kind of understood the decision to go that route. They did not. Went after it, went for it, gave up the draft capital that they had. Again, they're limited by the stepping roll anyway, but gave up what they could give up. They still do have a second round pick. They can, to your point, continue to make moves, continue to shift around. But I thought the main point you made, Anthony, was super clear. They did not want to mess with this rotation. They like it. They like their 8 to 9 rotation. I think, to me, that includes Rui Hachimura, that includes Gabe Vincent, who really stepped up and kind of fit, what JJ's been asking, for the whole season. So we'll see how it looks. But Mark Williams, welcome to LA.
Yeah, the kind of player they went after, I totally like. I really, again, if Mark Williams stays healthy, and here's the thing,
talented guy.
After you trade for Luka, and after you trade for Mark Williams, you know what the next thing the Lakers absolutely have to do this offseason is? And it won't cost them any draft capital. It won't cost them any cap space. It won't cost them anything whatsoever. You know what it is? Go out and hire the absolute best medical team money can buy.
Sure.
Absolute best, like ahead of the game, groundbreaking kind of stuff. Not on LinkedIn, but like talk to people around the league. Look at what teams have better injury histories than others, and then go and poach somebody from one of those teams. Offer them the world, and then when you hire like that lead doctor or something like that, then you say like, "Hey, you have a blank check to go out and get whatever you need to optimize our medical staff so that we keep Luka healthy and in shape, so that we keep Mark Williams healthy and in shape." And so, I mean, LeBron, I'm not really worried about because he has a proven track record of maintaining that availability. Also, by the way, not like it should be mentioned here, going for it with Mark Williams in this way, while LeBron is riding the high of holy shit, I get to play with Luka Doncic.
Right.
Remember what I said the other day, right, Raj, about like the notion of him taking less potentially this summer to give the Lakers a little bit more room. That becomes all the more important because the Lakers don't have any draft capital. So if LeBron does take less and gives them access to their full exception this year, now all of a sudden you can add another player on top of what they just did here without having to mess with draft capital there. So like this has my wheels spinning. Yeah. And what I'll say about this too is like I was talking to Jen earlier today, and she was like, dude, you do not look like you are like dragging ass to try to get to your office anymore. you look like for a while there, it was like, all right, I'll be right back. Let me go record a show really quick. I'll come right back and we'll like watch whatever show. And like she was watching me like getting ready for the show, and I was like doing notes for the show and stuff like this. And she was like, wow, I haven't seen this guy in a little while, and now this injects even more life. I don't matter. I'm not saying that like I matter in this at all, but I'm saying like, I think for LeBron, I would imagine he probably felt some of the same way. We had just talked like a week ago about how it was a stale product, right? This is very much not stale. This is a completely different way that they have operated to this point. This is a completely different way that they have treated draft capital to this point. And by the way, they have Luka Doncic. Like, it's wild. It's unbelievable the kind of night and day transformation we have seen from this organization in the matter of like 72 hours.
I was thinking while you were saying, go out and get the best medical team. I was like, is that what, Anthony? Is that like 3% of the Luka jersey sales? Like, what is the percentage of like the Luka jersey sales that would fund that? Because Luka's jerseys came out, well, and didn't come out, but today he took the first photos in that. That does not look real. Just does not look real at all. Looks completely fake. Looks completely Photoshop. No, this is exciting. We have a young, like, very talented guy at the center position, and obviously coming off of it, he's not an Anthony Davis for sure, but when you move your all NBA guy to the guard position, I said this before, Anthony, like, I know this is a simplistic way to look at it, but we moved like our all NBA talent from the center to the guard. So really at that center position, I needed it to really be in the Max Christie tier of player, right? Just do your job, do it well. And just don't make mistakes on the floor, finish the catches that you get, just do your job on the defensive end. And I think Mark Williams, is kind of in that Max Christie tier of player. He's probably a little bit more talented as well and was drafted a lot higher, right? Was a 15th pick in the draft. Again, everything that comes out of Charlotte, you got to kind of PJ Washington came out of Charlotte and became a starting wing on a not a championship team, but a finals team. Did they get someone else from Charlotte as well? I don't remember, but no, Gafford came from Washington. PJ Washington came from Charlotte. But yeah, it's exciting. We got a brand new center. We got a brand new starting franchise guard that'll be here on Saturday. I still think Jackson Hayes is a playable center. We'll see what happens in the next few hours if he's dealt or whatever. I'm not sure if he can be dealt or if he can aggregate his salary or whatever. But if they move Maxi Kleber or do any other move, but And this is exciting. Our team feels a lot more balanced now, where like small ball can be to use a baseball term, like our small ball can be a pitch that we throw instead of the full pitch or whatever, our fastball or however that goes in baseball. But no, this is exciting. I'm gonna go dive into Mark Williams as soon as we get off of here. I was actually in the middle when I got your text. I was in the middle of watching like Luca versus us tape, like where he was scoring and hitting overtime threes against us. But yeah, thank you, Chad. Curveball, that's what it is. But no, I'm excited to just dive into Mark Williams and see what he is. And it's clear the front office targeted him as the guy, and they got him. It was a hefty price, a little bit of an overpay, but maybe not. Mark Williams averages 16 and 10 here. Anthony, it's not an overpay. 16 and 10.
I love that the audience is like, hey, dude, you made like a non-basketball.
I know, right? Look at me doing a baseball analogy.
My goodness, Raj, a curveball.
I tried.
Analogy, Raj. Way to go, Raj.
I